Good morning. And welcome to the First Congregational Church of Kittery United Church of Christ. We are a welcoming spiritual community anchored in love and growing in faith. It is our mission to inspire spiritual growth, nurture all families, and embrace the wider community. Every week, we offer extravagant welcome. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. My name is Beth St. John, and I am honored to be our Church Council Chair. As many of you know, Pastor Brian is currently on paternity leave until August 1st, and so we are engaging in laity-led worship through July. So 2 more weeks till Pastor Brian comes back. Today we are blessed to have our faithful, dedicated, and fearless treasurer as our worship leader.
And modest,
very modest, humble. We want to give a huge thank you to Rick Leonard for planning and leading our worship service today and for sharing his gifts of ministry with us. And we would also like to thank Suzanne Moran for serving as our greeter this morning, and to Leslie Colbert for serving as one of our offering ushers and for volunteering to be our Lemonade on the Lawn host, which will be happening immediately following the service. So thank you, Suzanne, thank you, Leslie, and thank you to all of you for joining us this morning. Announcements. Who knows what is happening on August 13th? Shout it out if you know. Lori.
Blueberry Festival.
Blueberry Festival. Our annual Blueberry Festival extravaganza. August 13th. It will start at 7:30 with a breakfast hosted by Mel and Donna Stobbs, and then the Arts and Crafts Fair opens at 9. And Steve Hoffman and friends will be serving lunch from 11 to 1. If you're wondering what you can do right now to help us with this effort, you can help us in spreading the word and helping to make this year's festival a grand success. So at the current moment, what we can really use your help with is getting the word out. So Jennifer made a beautiful flyer that you can download from the mooring, or you can pick up a hard copy in the parish house and you can share that with folks. If you're on Facebook, there is a link in the mooring to share the Facebook event with your friends. We can also use your help in stockpiling blueberries. If you see frozen blueberries while shopping, particularly Wyman's Maine blueberries, please consider purchasing some for our bakers. We've heard that supply chain issues have made them difficult to find in many stores. When it gets closer to the festival date, if you are a baker, you will need blueberry pies and lots of other baked goodies. And if you're like me and baking isn't quite your thing, we need lots of festival volunteers for setup, for cleanup, for helping with breakfast, lunch, parking, with the vendors. So please look for all of these details in the mooring, and the sign-ups to volunteer will also be in the mooring as well. And if you have any questions, you can contact myself, Mary Carter, Lori Smith, and of course, Church Coordinator Extraordinaire, Jennifer Gray. Plan your own fundraiser. This month, the fundraiser is called If These Granite Walls Could Speak. It is a guided historic tour of Fort McClary by one of the, is it park rangers? Is that what they call them? Yep. That is Saturday, July 30th from 10 to noon. And John Carter explained it as hundreds of years of history in a mere couple of hours. They're going to do a full tour of the fort and show a number of things that possibly you've never heard about the park or about the fort. There is a donation, and you can sign up in the morning. Yoga for anybody is Thursday, 8:30 in the parish house. And if you would like to receive the morning is our weekly email newsletter. If you'd like to receive the morning, just let us know. We'll get your email address and we can send that out to you. Siding and painting project, Rick will give you an update on that. But before we do, are there any other announcements anyone would like to share? Seeing none, we'll have Rick give us an update on the siding and right into our call to worship.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. So quick update on the siding stuff. As you've seen, the siding on the parish house has been completed on 1.5 sides. It's a gray primer coat right now. We will be filling in some holes where the nails were recessed and a couple works like that, and then putting a couple of coats of paint on it. The color has yet to be actually finalized. Some people have expressed an interest in the grayish color, which it has now. Others are making more traditional white. It will not be purple or polka dot, but we might add a color component to the doors. So thinking about these things now. If you have opinions or recommendations, feel free to let us know. We'll ignore you just like I do my wife. She's not here, by the way. We're going to be continuing to scrape the parsonage. One side is pretty much done. The other side is, I haven't checked fully, but probably 75% done. There's still a little work to do. Tuesday morning and Tuesday afternoon, we'll be having another scraping party, and you're more than welcome to join. A couple of people have been very good at helping and faithful in that, and it's a great effort going forward with that, and that will be primed and painted as well. So a lot of work going on that. So that's where we are. If you have questions, give me a holler. So we'll get into the worship. If you're able to stand, please do so and join me in the call to worship, and then remain standing while I read the invocation and we sing our first hymn. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go to the house of the Lord. God, thank you for calling me here. God, thank you for calling us all here. Let us worship together. Let us worship in peace and harmony. So the invocation and some of the readings are from 1 Chronicles. I'm not a real biblical scholar, but it's been interesting to go through some of these, and they're a bit of a history lesson. So it's been kind of fascinating to pick this up. Anyway, from 1 Chronicles. Yours, O Lord, are the greatness, the power, the glory, the victory, and the majesty. For all that is in the heavens and on the earth is yours. Yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head above all. Riches and honor come from you, and you rule over all. In your hand are power and might, and it is in your hand to make great and to give strength to all. And now, our God, we give thanks to you, and praise your glorious name. First hymn is number 565, God, whose giving knows no ending. here. Some of us are childlike. But Sarah, did you want to say anything anyway?
No, I think we'll save it for children.
Okay, there we go. So, you may have sensed a theme in both the hymns and the scripture readings relative to money. Well, I'm the treasurer, so there you go. The Old Testament reading from 1 Chronicles. Then the leaders of ancestral houses made their free will offerings, as did also the leaders of the tribes of Israel, the commanders of the thousands and of the hundreds, and the officers over the king's work. They gave for the service of the house of God 5,000 talents and 10,000 darics of gold, 10,000 talents of silver, 18,000 talents of bronze, and 100,000 talents of iron. Whoever had precious stones gave into the treasury of the house of the Lord, into the care of Jehiel the Gershonite. Then the people rejoiced, because these had given willingly, for with single mind they had offered freely to the Lord. King David also rejoiced greatly. Then David blessed the Lord in the presence of all the assembly. David said, "Blessed are you, O Lord, the God of our ancestor Israel, forever and ever." But who am I, and what is my people, that we should be able to make this free will offering? For all things come from you, and of your own have we given you. For we are aliens and transients before you, as were all our ancestors. Our days on the earth are like a shadow, and there is no hope, O Lord our God, of all this abundance that we have provided for building you a house, for your holy name comes from your hand, and is all your own. I know, my God, that you search the heart and take pleasure in uprightness, and in the uprightness of my heart. I have freely offered all these things, and now I have seen your people who are present here offering freely and joyously to you.
As we prepare to pass the offering plate this morning, we invite everyone to show kindness to your pew neighbor by sanitizing your hands with the sanitizer provided in each pew. We believe in the God of justice and righteousness, and God believes in us to carry forth the mission of loving and caring for community. God has blessed us all with many gifts. Let us share our gifts and resources so that we may continue to walk humbly with God and with our neighbors. If you feel called to offer a monetary gift to support our ministries or to support our historic buildings that we are called to steward, please place your gift in the offering plate, or you may donate online by going to our website, kitterypointucc.org, and clicking on the Donate Here button. This time, I invite the ushers to come forward and our time of offering to commence.
New Testament reading this morning comes from 1 Timothy. Of course, there is great gain in godliness combined with contentment, for we brought nothing into the world so that we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with these. But those who want to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, and in their eagerness to be rich, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pains. But as for you, man of God, shun all this. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, gentleness. Fight the good fight of the faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called, and to which you made good confession in the presence of many witnesses. The gospel reading from Matthew, I'm sure, is very familiar to most of us. Jesus cleanses the temple. Then Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who were selling and buying in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. He said to them, "It is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers." So I'm sure we all heard that. Heard it for many years. So Beth said, welcome to the penultimate laity-led church service. Penultimate, that's a good word, $4 word. It means next to last. It sounds cool. When I was still working and actually being paid for working, I worked for an organization called Capital, and one of my jobs at the time was to write some of the operating procedures for the reactor plants in the submarines. We had to send these procedures and analyses and documents down to naval reactors for their review and approval. One of the department managers back there loved the word penultimate. He used it in every single one of his responses to our submittals. It became almost like an Easter egg hunt. Where is penultimate? We would look for that word before we read the letter. So it has become somewhat of a fun word for me. Anyway, Brian will be back here in 2 weeks, August 7th. And frankly, it's amazing how quickly the weeks have gone by for me since I agreed to conduct one of these services back when I was younger and more stupid. I felt in summer days were supposed to get longer, but they just seem to have gotten shorter because all of a sudden October 24th is here and I had to get ready. I apologize for the length of some of the readings. They look much shorter when you see them in the Bible. We got kind of enthused about putting all this stuff together. So there's a lot more readings today. I hope it didn't bore you too much. So as you know, I'm the treasurer for the church. So as you might expect, today's message will concern money. However, before I start, and as a treasurer concerned with budget deficits, I'd like to make a one-time special offer deal to you. If you want to leave now and miss the rest of this message, you need only deposit an extra $20 in the offering plate back there, and I'll give you full credit for having been here. What a deal. I did find it difficult in selecting musical hymns for today's services that had a money or finance theme. You know, you may find it hard to believe, but in the hymnal, there's not too many songs about money. You've got to go to Broadway shows or pop music to find that. However, there are over 2,000 Bible quotations dealing with money or wealth. Plenty to work with there. So, here goes. Quotation number 1. No, I'm not going to go through all 2,000. But the gospel reading from Matthew is no doubt very familiar. All 4 gospels contain some version of that story. I'm not going to talk about the theology of it. There's plenty of commentators on that, and I frankly don't have the knowledge. People like Beth or Sybil or Brian who have studied the Bible, and many of you perhaps have various interpretations of that. I mentioned it only to emphasize that money has had a long place in church life. At the time of the gospel story, men were required to pay a temple tax, something like what they used to do in colonial days here. But the tax had to be paid in a specialized, specific coinage. The money changers performed as their money implies. They changed a foreign currency or a local currency into the acceptable currency. And apparently they sometimes cheated the figure. So the animals were there for sacrifice, which was a custom in those days. Farmers having to travel long distances driving sheep or cattle would not risk their injury or loss to theft. So they would sell their animals locally, bring the money to the temple, and buy sacrificial animals there. So all of this was part and parcel of temple life, church life back at the time. So while it may seem, hang on. The readings from Chronicles earlier that I mentioned describe how the stewardship committee of the day raised the pledges to support and build the church. A talent was variously a weight, 80 pounds. So when someone's raising 10,000 talent, that could be a lot of money. Or it could be a term of currency. And a talent in those days, I'm told, was worth about 6,000 denarii. The daily wage for someone was a denarii. So that represented quite a few daily wages. The daric mentioned of gold was a coin worth about 2 denarii, just for references. I have very little talent myself, so I don't really talk about these words. So anyway, while it may seem a little crass to be talking about money in church, when instead we really should be on a more lofty, ethereal, intellectual plane, money is and long has been a significant aspect of physical church and our life in the church. So it's not uncommon. But before I discuss some of these specific aspects of money in our church, I'd like to give a little of my perspective of why I think a physical church presence is worth funding. Certainly there are many other things we can spend money on. Boats, bicycles, beer. We've probably all heard someone say they don't really need to go to church. They can commune spiritually out in the woods or on a surfboard feeling the power of the ocean. And maybe they can, and that's sufficient for them. But the physical church, our church, supports a community. It's a place where people can come together to learn, to discuss, to relate to each other, to form a community. I personally believe that shared beliefs in something beyond ourselves has been perhaps a major driving force in the development of civilizations. Shared experiences and beliefs are the glue of communities, and communities form civilizations. Where does the money come from? Where does it go? In developing the budget for 2022, we projected an income of $200,990. I'm not including in that sum the monies which we agreed to take out of past savings, out of escrow to fund specific jobs, such as the siding replacement. This is just new money, if you will, coming into the church from us. The largest single component of that income is pledges. What we give to the stewardship committee, what we pledge to provide for the year. For 2022, we assumed pledges would be $165,000, which was based on the realized numbers in 2021 with an increase and a desire, actually more of a hope, that it would be achieved. Other assumed significant incomes made up the balance to our budget expected of $200,000. An additional income of $17,000 was targeted as a fundraising goal. So we're looking at some significant sums of money. Just to give a place marker, if you will, a way to measure where we are, and this is not by any means indicative of anything more than just a guide. Many people make their pledges at the beginning of the year. Many people fill them up at the end of the year. We have additional monies coming in. But this gives you an idea of how we're doing. At the end of June, which is 50% of the year, we had received about 43.5% of our projected income and raised about $1,000 of the $17,000 fundraising target. Just to give an idea of where we are. As I say, we've often received increased revenues late in the year, but as they say, past performance is no guarantee of future performance. So, how do we spend? How do we control all that money? Well, first of all, I'd like to assure you that we're not wasting stuff. And we have in place guidelines and things to ensure that we are above board. We probably all have heard stories of church treasurers or officials or someone embezzling money over the years. What we have here is we have basically three people who provide oversight. The financial secretary, which for many years was Sarah, and when the financial secretary collects the money given out in the plates today, it used to be, when we were doing this on a much larger basis, that she would count the money here in the church with a deacon with her. And that money was documented. So there's oversight and control for the cash checks coming in. Financial secretary currently is Karen Brown. She then takes the money and deposits it. Excuse me. We also have money coming in electronically. Many of you make donations automatically. So she keeps track of those too. We have reports. And then she provides me, the treasurer, with a weekly summary sheet. Here's what came in. Here's what it was earmarked for. Here's the totals. I keep a spreadsheet. I manipulate that. I pay the bills. I balance all these monies to the bank account statements. So I can compare what she has said is provided to what the bank has. We check it. And then we have Judy Smart back there, who's been the auditor, incredible, for a long time, and keeps us all straight. She audits everything. So everything is pretty much controlled, transparent, and above board. So, how do we spend that amount of money? $200,000 plus. The largest expense for our church is our staff. How much was the pledges for this year? $165. This is a test. I'm checking to make sure you're listening. $165,000 was our pledge amount. The salaries, benefits, and church portion of FICA, Medicare, etc. for our staff total $165,026 for this year. So if we got 100% of our pledges, it would almost cover our staff expenses. Just to give you a perspective. We don't pay people an incredible amount. We try to pay fairly. We provide benefits for Jennifer and for Brian. But that's what it is. Now, I'm sure everyone would like to have more money. When I was working, I would frequently say, well, they don't pay me what I'm worth. But I never really complained because that extra money came in very handy. Bada bing. For next year, I expect our payroll is going to be closer to $178,000. We had a 5.7% cost of living allowance this past year. It comes from the Social Security Administration. Based on inflation, I'm expecting it to be more than that. And as Brian particularly ages, the cost for his medical insurance is going to take a big jump next year. So this is something we have to look for. We're trying to plan for it, but it's coming. This is reality. What are some of our other significant expenses? So we have $165,000 for staffing. What happens for us? What are some of the other expenses that we have? Office expenses. Our budgeted will probably be around $6,000. That includes $119 a month to rent the copy machine. It includes such things as buying toilet paper, for the bathroom. There's a lot of sub expenses that go into that. Telephone and internet. We budgeted $37.50, but we put internet service into the sanctuary to allow these types of broadcasts. So now we're paying, this year it'd be about $4,500 for internet telephone service. We pay for cutting the grass, $2,400 a year. Insurance for this building and workers' compensation and the other buildings, $9,000 a year. Maintenance, we budgeted $11,000 a year, and I can assure you there's need for that. We get a lot of donation in kind from volunteers who work on this church building. For instance, The working people doing the scraping and painting. We had to pay other people to do that. Be there. We have fall and spring cleanups. It used to cost us $2,500 a year 5 years ago to have professionals that are doing that. You people contribute that. Tom Brown is replacing the doorway under here into the church cellar. He's doing it because it needs to be done, and he likes doing that sort of stuff. Volunteers take care of the flowers. We have a lot of activities that people in the church do with unsung humility and greatness. We pay $2,800 in taxes. Utilities, electric for these 3 buildings, $2,500 this year. And then there's fuel oil. We budgeted $10,000 this year, which is a tremendous jump over the past years. It's going to be closer to $13,000. All these things add up. So you add that to our payroll, and we're at almost $220,000 with a projected income of $200,000. That's what it is. That's why we need fundraising. That's why we need people to support the church. So that's kind of the money, or story of the money and our church. I wanted just to provide some idea of what it takes to support the place. And I think more importantly, why we want to support the place. It's not a place to come and get comfortable. It's a place where you can belong to a group, to a society. And I mentioned a couple of years ago doing something like this. When I was a kid, go to Sunday school, I gave money, a quarter. Woohoo! I was paying big bucks back then. As a 10-year-old, a quarter for me was a lot of money. I had no idea what it was relative to the whole church budget. I still don't know for that matter. But most people don't really know what it takes to run a place like this. But I think it is really important, and this is a community where you don't really have to pay money to belong, which is one of the virtues. People go to various societies, they join country clubs, pay thousands of dollars for membership there. We don't really ask anyone to pay anything to be a member of this community. If you can, that's wonderful. If you can't, as Beth has said and Brian says, there's other ways to write gifts and support. But the bottom line is we do have things we have to do. So, that's the story. We have significant buildings, significant historic buildings, and they have significant maintenance items. We have a staff who serve us and need to be paid adequately. Previous generations of our community, of our church, have supported the church through 300 years and have left us a legacy we hope to continue. Church is important to our lives and to our community. Let's keep the tradition of support. Thank you. By the way, I have to let you know, if you do this, it's kind of, actually, once you get done on the prep, it's kind of fun to do this, and you don't have to wear a mask. But if you do, I have to warn you about something. I'm sitting up here earlier, and I'm hearing something. What is it? And I've checked. My phone is turned off. I believe it's the monitor over here, because Beth is monitoring the YouTube to find out what's going on, and people bring questions and prayer supports. I wasn't aware of that, so I'm going crazy. So if you do this, and I would encourage everyone to try to do this. It's actually kind of fun. Be forewarned.
That actually was a mistake, so it normally won't happen. I forgot to mute something, but we fixed the problem.
Okay.
Can we get a round of applause for Rick? Rick is one of those unsung heroes that he talked about in his sermon, who does so much for this church out of his good heart. So we thank you, Rick, for all of your work, and we thank you for all of the time and effort that you put into our message today so that we all learn more about what it takes to run a church. As we begin our time of prayer together, I'd like to ask if there are any joys or concerns that anyone would like to lift up. Suzanne.
Yeah, I just, some of the people who work for the church, work with our section, maybe keep you cool. And please note, more than add to it, they're cheap. So it's a reminder. But I thought it was just so thoughtful, I had to say, thank you, Lord.
Yes. So for those at home, there are blueberry fans. I'm going to hold one up so that the camera can see them. In each of the pews that Lori Smith made, and on a day like today, they are a saving grace. So thank you, Lori, for putting those together. And thank you, Suzanne, for leading. Lori.
I wanted to lift up a joy for a couple that I had the pleasure of seeing get married on Friday night. Sarah and Danny Saxby, and she's a young woman who I babysat years and years ago, so it was just a joy to see her get married and continue her life with this wonderful young man. I even added an extra element to this experience was the minister who performed their ceremony is the minister for Seacoast Mission on the vessel Sunshine. And it was just a wonderful circle. And I just wish them the best in their future.
Thank you, Lori. So, joy for the celebration of marriage and the opportunity for family and friends to come together and celebrate that new chapter in their life together. Sarah.
I have two concerns this morning. The first is my sister Sybil, who's having back problems. The second is a neighbor of mine who came to me last night, and his wife is going in for cancer surgery on Tuesday, and he knows I go to church, as he does also, and he asked for our prayers for his wife, Nancy.
Thank you, Sarah. Prayers for Sybil, who's dealing with back issues, and prayers for Nancy, who is going in for cancer surgery. Prayers of healing, comfort, peace. I'm not seeing any other. Oh, actually, I forgot to check YouTube. YouTubers, if there are any joys or concerns, please feel free to put them in the chat. They haven't any yet. Not seeing any, so please join me in a spirit of prayer. Gracious and loving God, you call us to love and serve you with body, mind, and spirit. By loving your creation and our sisters and our brothers. We offer our prayers to you on behalf of the universe in which we are blessed to live and our neighbors with whom we share it. Open our hearts in compassion and receive all the prayers we offer this day, both the ones spoken aloud and the ones that ring out silently through our hearts. Guide us in the path of discipleship, so that as you have blessed us, we may be a blessing for others by our words of comfort and our acts of love. Create in us a tenderness to the needs of all, an openness to everyone's gifts, and a commitment to the struggle for justice. And remind us who you are for us and who you call us to be. as we pray with the words Jesus taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. And now let us join in our closing hymn, What Gift Can We Bring? Number 370. And please stand as you are able. benediction today, I would like to share with you a blessing from Mother Teresa of Calcutta called Happiness. May today there be peace within you. May you trust God that you are exactly where you are meant to be. May you not forget the infinite possibilities that are born of faith. May you use those gifts that you have received and pass on the love that has been given to you. May you be content knowing that you are a child of God. Let God's presence settle into your bones and allow your soul the freedom to sing, dance, and to bask in the sun. It is there for each and every one of you.
Amen.